welcome back. It's time to wrap up this Pac-Mania of sorts, and today I'll be reviewing two games. Pac-Man World Rally for the GameCube, and Miss Pac-Man's Maze Madness for the PlayStation. To recap, I feel that Pac-Man World 3, while not a bad game, is one of the worst sequels in video game history. It was to the point where I just stopped playing the games for a while. This includes Pac-Man World 2, and that's pretty severe. Around this time, Pac-Man World Rally was released, a Mario Kart-style racing game with various Namco characters, including those from the Pac-Man World games. At this point, I was going through my Nintendo fanboy phase, so I didn't buy it due to my closed-minded nature at the time. However, a few years later, I found the Turrican series, and after becoming a fan of it, I became more open to other games again as a result. That's when I decided to go back and play Pac-Man World 2, and I had a blast. So my love for the series returned. Some more time went by, and in January of this year, in fact, I started to look into the game out of curiosity. Then I saw the reviews. The game was heavily bashed, some even referring to it as one of the worst games on the GameCube. Why, might you ask? Well, because it's a Mario Kart clone! At this point, I was, and still am, very skeptical when it comes to what I hear unless I actually see it for myself. After playing Lair, I really can't blame myself for commonly utilizing such a mentality. Of course, due to the superficial nature of said argument, my curiosity was piqued and I made my purchase. After all, the quality of the game isn't based off of what said game reminds you of. This is one of the things I despise about Nintendo fanboys, and keep in mind that I used to be one.
Wow! Super Mario 64!
This game is so awesome, it's so innovative!
Why does that matter to you?
Every game in the genre should be like this! How dare you rip off Mario! Oh.
Of course, I'm ignoring all of the game's gameplay mechanics and design choices to make such a conclusion, but it's still a rip-off, therefore making it a terrible game that doesn't exist.
Ugh. Suddenly I'm really thirsty. Anyway, I think you guys can see where I'm going with this. The game is really underrated. But is what the fanboy said true? Sort of, but not really. While there is definitely a strong resemblance to Mario Kart as one would expect, it has its own elements that set it apart, therefore making it not a ripoff. One of the things I personally don't like about Mario Kart in comparison to games like the Lotus Turbo Challenge series is how the sense of achievement is very lacking. Everything really depends on what power-ups you get and when, instead of your skill accumulating as the game progresses. With this game, that's not the case, as some of the better power-ups you have to constantly make the effort to earn. For example, in each course there will be Pac-Dots lying around that you and the other racers can collect. After collecting enough, you gain the ability to transform into the Pac-Mobile and eat the other racers. However, in order to use it again, you need to collect the same number of Pac-Dots again. There's also a heavy emphasis on secret passageways and shortcuts you can gain access to by collecting the right kind of fruit. In my eyes, this concept is actually executed very well, and in a fresh manner. I always felt that Mario Kart's strength wasn't necessarily its power-up system, but instead the actual courses themselves, especially in entries like Mario Kart DS. This is something that almost all of the other games in the subgenre of kart racing that I have played at least, have failed at. However, this is something that this game in particular excels at. The courses in this game are downright amazing and are just a blast to play. Many of them are based off of various Namco games. Pac-Man, Galaga, Pac-Man World 2, and there's even one based off of Katamari. Plus, in the PSP version, there's apparently a stage based off of Dig Dug, exclusive to that version. However, there are also a lot of stages with entirely original environments too, and I would love to see some of these in an actual Pac-Man World game. Then there's the music. Several composers worked on this game, one of which being the legendary composer Tommy Tallarico, who also worked on Cool Spot for the Super Nintendo, Genesis, and Amiga, and also the Terminator for Sega CD. Now, while this isn't Pac-Man World 2 or Turrican awesome, the soundtrack is really good. However, many of the songs are remixes of familiar tunes, but my lord, they're done well. For example, if you played Galaga in the arcades as a kid, well, this one's for you. However, the one that got to me the most was the music of the stage Canyon Crusade. It's a remix of Blocktown from Pac-Mania, which is not only one of my favorite video game songs, it's definitely one of the ones I have the most nostalgia for. So overall, this game is really good. Even in comparison to Mario Kart, it holds up really well. In fact, I'd say it's up there with many of the stronger entries in the Mario Kart series. I definitely recommend playing this one. Now, Miss Pac-Man Maze Madness is one I didn't pay attention to for a while. But when I was working on my review for Pac-Man World 2, I learned that not only was it by the same people who worked on Pac-Man World and Pac-Man World 2, but it also ran on the same engine as the original Pac-Man World. Then I looked into it a bit more and decided to get it. Just in time, too! This game is basically a return to the maze format, again using the maze engine from Pac-Man World, but with more of an adventure feeling, close to that of Pac-Man World and Pac-Man World 2's standard gameplay. However, these aren't the kind of mazes traditional Pac-Man fans are familiar with. These are big levels, and your goal isn't necessarily to collect all of the Pac Dots, though that does help you progress through the game easier. The goal is to make it through to the end of each stage in one piece. There's even some platforming here and there, so essentially it's like if you took the two styles of gameplay in the first two games and blended them together. So while I wouldn't call it a real Pac-Man World game, it's definitely a successor of sorts, and it's a hell of a lot closer than Pac-Man World 3 was. There's something really strange about this, though. Remember my review of Pac-Man World 3 when I stated that the first two games, while very different from each other, maintained the form of consistency that Pac-Man World 3 threw away? Well, this game has it! Yeah, it actually feels like a Pac-Man World game, which is fantastic. Even some of the enemies from the first two games are here, and yes, World 3 didn't have them either. Something else is that you'll encounter various bonus stages which are built from various scenes from the original Pac-Man world. There's a racing section similar to the clown racing, and there are boat stages built from the spaceship section. Though even with all these similarities, the game does manage to set itself apart. The main factor contributing to this is the puzzle solving. There's actually quite a bit of it, and thankfully it really feels in place with everything else. The graphics are as great as ever, and the music is absolutely wonderful. Having grown up playing the games, I have a lot of nostalgia for the style of music in these games, so when I heard the main theme, I was immediately attached to it. And when I heard Cleopatra, the music in the first level, I was getting really emotional. Then there are other fantastic songs like Crystal Caves 2, which is really atmospheric and at times sounds like something you'd hear from a Turrican game, though with more organic sounding instruments, obviously. Something else I really like about the game is the kind of experience it provides. At times, the game's atmosphere really makes it feel like you're up against great odds, but you can overcome said obstacles and come out victorious. Ironically, the game is pretty easy, but I really like how the game makes the player feel empowered in presenting such messages. So in conclusion, this game is great. It's a piece of my childhood that I didn't find until now, and boy am I happy that I did. However, I still think there should be a direct successor that follows the first two games in order for us to feel satisfied with the series overall. As you're used to me saying by now, Pac-Man World 3 didn't cut it at all. In fact, it just left an empty void, leaving us, the players, wondering what could have been. In my mind, that void must be filled. Unfortunately for people like me who utilize such a mentality, the original development team split apart, moved on to other things, and it doesn't look like Namco is going to make another one. All I can do is hope. but the last time I did that was for a Rogue Squadron 4, and then Factor 5 went out of business. So, I can't say I'm too optimistic. Oh well, at least we have these games, and I will always hold them close to my heart. I sincerely recommend playing them. If you liked any of what you saw, then please do yourself a favor and play these games. They are just that fun.